It's thinking. These are a couple of things I had for you. One is from my mom, and the other one is requests. All right.
If you wanna,
Oh, it looks live?
yep,
Maybe?
and you can click into the video to make it full screen.
X out of this?
Yep.
Okay. Go away. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm not sure who all is out there, but this is Dr. Ann Auburn, and tonight I'm doing a Facebook Live presentation about food allergies. I do think in the future we are going to do these by Zoom, because every time we do this we have some difficulty getting in to do these lectures through Facebook Live. So in the future we will probably do Zoom, and so be looking for that. I will be looking down at my sheets because I have notes from my slides. If any of you do want to get copies of the slides, we'd be glad to email that to you. In the comments tonight, I may or may not have time to answer some of your questions, so if you just put your questions there, and we can have somebody check those tomorrow and get back to you. And I would love to have any of your comments about, how I did and other topics that you might be interested in hearing. And we do one of these about every other month or so. Okay, so for food sensitivities tonight, basically we call these hidden allergies. And I want to relate to you tonight how this relates to underlying health problems. Because a lot of people think about allergies and they think, oh, no, I don't have a runny nose, or I don't have, headaches, sinus headaches. I don't have itchy eyes, watery eyes. But this is the thing. It can be many, many other things besides that. So it can be body aches. It can be pain anywhere, really. It could just be tiredness, brain fog. It can be related to other health issues, like let's say you have, like a rheumatoid arthritis or something like that. Food sensitivities can definitely make it worse. So I'm going to kind of explain that to you and explain different types of allergies to you so that you can get a sense of, all the different types of allergies. So basically, one of the things to keep in mind is over the last, 100 years or so, our diets have changed a lot. We used to be, hunt and gather for our food. We used to farm. We used to have to work harder to get what we need. And now we just go down to the grocery store and we buy a bag of nuts that are already cracked open for us. So, in America, we tend to have everything we want and at our fingertips, and we kind of get into eating certain foods all the time. And sometimes those foods are not as healthy as they should be. And when you eat unhealthy foods, and or if you eat the same foods frequently a lot, like a lot of people have eggs every morning. I did that for years, and when I did my first allergy test, voila, eggs showed up. And I'll explain how that happens in a minute. But also other things, if you have leaky gut syndrome, where you've got irritation in the gut and little microscopic damage to the walls of your gut. Also, if you have other conditions like autoimmune conditions, like I mentioned earlier, and it doesn't have to be gut problems, or if you're just exposed to, say, chemicals a lot, if you work in a job where you might be getting exposed to chemicals. All of these things just take a little bit of a toll, each one, on the kind of inflammatory status of the body, the damage to the cells, the stress on the immune system, the stress on our endocrine system and on our hormones, and, over 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, et cetera, you do have more issues. And some people have it really early in life, and it could be, that they just genetically have more sensitivities to things, or they don't clear toxins as well. And there's a lot of tests that we can do for that. But so many cases get so much better when we do food sensitivities that this is a very, very common test for us here at the clinic. And, I could go into case after case after case of headaches and hyperactivity and ADHD and gut pain and headaches and, skin issues and acne and all kinds of things, that all we did was this test and maybe a few basic supplements, and the person got better. It took a little while. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not a drug that you put it on or you take it by mouth and then bam, your symptoms are gone or your acne's gone in 5 days, and then it just comes back with a vengeance when you're not doing that drug or that thing. So, not that drugs are always bad, but we try to avoid them because they usually have side effects. So if we can do something like simply changing our diet, I mean, other than the cost of the test, it's basically free. So it's actually a very effective way to get the inflammation down in the body. So, what are food allergies? Okay, so there's lots of food allergies. Most people think of food allergies as, oh, I eat strawberries and I get hives. And that is one type of allergy. We call that an IgE-mediated immunity. Ig stands for immunoglobulin. And immunoglobulins are various antibodies that occur in response to things that come into the body and into the gut, and then the body sees it there and responds. And so IgE antibodies can cause hives, swelling, red blotches, itchiness of the eyes or skin, watery eyes, sneezing, and can lead to anaphylaxis. So that's a reaction where your tongue swells up and your mucous membranes in your throat swell up and you can't breathe. And it is something like if somebody has anaphylaxis to like a bee sting or peanuts or something like that, they could literally die of asphyxiation because they can't get the air in their lungs. So that's a pretty severe reaction. It usually happens, within a short period of time. It can be 15 minutes or an hour, usually no more than an hour. And you can cause wheezing and that sort of thing too. So that's an IgE immediate allergy. And most people knows what those are because they've had the experience of, having that allergic reaction and getting the hives or the itchy skin or the watery eyes or whatever, or somebody's mowing the lawn and then all of a sudden their eyes are watering. So a lot of people are aware because the symptoms are so immediate. Now there are actually 4 types of food allergies. There's types 1, 2, 3, and 4. More than one type of reaction can occur at the same time, and so sometimes it can be tricky to sort out. The type 1 reactions, this is the IgE that I just explained to you. And my notes here say it actually happens in less than 2 hours, but often it's quite a bit quicker than that. These are IgE antibodies. They bind with a specific antigen, resulting in a release of tissue irritant chemicals. And a lot of us think histamine, that's the one we know about. There's antihistamines all over the place, in the store, and we can buy them and take them. But there's also leukotrienes, there's lysosomal enzymes, there's kinin and bradykinin-like substances, and dehydroascorbic acid, and these all result in inflammation or irritation. So then type 2 it's a cytotoxic reaction. So this means it can damage cells or destroy them. And that involves like IgM and IgG both. So, we don't deal with that one too much, but it does happen. Now, type 3 is the one that we deal with mostly here at this clinic. We do sometimes do the IgE allergies as well, just so that we get an idea of what might be the immediate things if the person has a lot going on. But most of the time we're doing these type 3 allergies, which are the delayed allergies. It can take up to 72 hours to react to these foods. And it involves an antibody called IgG. So this results in some tissue injury if it's deposited in the tissues. Or it can just make you feel yucky or tired or achy or whatever, any symptom. So the tricky part here with this one, though, is, sometimes it's 3 days before you have a reaction. Sometimes it depends on how much of that food you eat or how often you've eaten it before you have a reaction. So it may seem kind of weird, like, oh, I ate strawberries last week and I didn't have any problem. But, I had strawberries this week and I did have a reaction. So it can depend on how often and how much of that allergen you have to have a reaction. And you might eat strawberries on Wednesday, but then have a reaction on Saturday. So it's not always like linear, like you just can't see it very easily. It's very hard to track these. You can do a food diary. It's very tricky. Sometimes you have to, if you're going to do food allergy elimination, then you have to like take a whole group of foods that say everything from cow dairy, and you have to be off of it for a good 2-3 weeks. And then you can try another food and be off of that. And sometimes these things are cumulative too. Sometimes it's not just the dairy you're eating or just the eggs. It's a combination of all those things increasing the inflammatory index and causing more problems overall. So then the type 4, we don't deal with this one really too much either, but these are also a delayed reaction. They don't involve immunoglobulins at all, and it primarily involves T lymphocytes, a type of white blood cell, and it causes inflammation 36 to 72 hours after contact. And to be totally honest, there's the integrative medicine docs that do a lot of allergy medicine. They just focus on allergy and environmental issues and multiple sensitivities and whatnot. They say there's things we just can't even measure. So that's where we pull in Dr. Flynn, our acupuncturist, who is also an oriental medicine doctor, and he does muscle testing. And sometimes when we have these cases and we've done this test and we've done several other tests and maybe the person's not getting better, they don't seem to be responding to our supplements, then we send them to Dr. Flynn and he does muscle response testing. And if you've ever had muscle response testing where you hold your arm up and somebody pushes on it and then it gets weak when you take a certain supplement next to your body, or it gets real strong when you do another supplement, it seems really weird, but everything has energy. Everything has an energetic field. We're all made of electrons, protons, etc. So, there's an energy there. And if that energy does not resonate with your body, your arm is going to go weak. And so that's the principle of the muscle response testing. And Dr. Flynn is just a master at that. He has 500 or 600 vials of things that he can test. I know when he helped me with my allergies, I brought in cat hair and cat saliva from my cats and all kinds of things, and he tested me on all of that, and we figured out what was bothering me and causing my vertigo and my dizziness. And I haven't had vertigo or dizziness in years now. So, I still have a little bit of allergy stuff, but I have it way better under control. Actually, that's how I got into this type of medicine, as I was having a sinus headache 3 to 5 days a week, and they were pretty horrendous. I mean, at one point in time in medical school, I was literally living on Tylenol sinus or Advil sinus, and now I just kind of choke when I think of that. That's really terrible. It's not good for you to take those medications all the time. Now, I do occasionally still take Claritin if I need, something in addition to my natural things, or if my diet's been off a little bit, or a super rainy day, or a really bad spring or fall. I mean, sometimes the meds come in handy, but I try not to take them if I don't have to. But if I need them, I will take them because, in my situation, it turns into such a horrendous sinus headache that it's like a migraine and I can hardly function. So, I've learned how to manage it with my diet. For me, getting away from the grains and especially gluten and getting away from dairy and, really doing a variety of foods and not eating the same food all the time, that has made just incredible differences for me. When I first figured this out, somebody told me to go see a chiropractor over in Detroit, and I was like, well, okay, I'll try it. I'm having these terrible headaches, so what can it hurt? And he gave me a little adjustment, and he gave me a couple of supplements, but he told me just stop all gluten, stop all dairy, and stop all sugar. And I was floored. I didn't have a sinus headache for 2 weeks straight. And it shocked me because nobody in my field, osteopathic medicine, nobody I'd ever talked to about this ever mentioned what was I eating? Should I try giving up those foods? I mean, it just wasn't part of the paradigm. And that was when the light bulb went off for me. And I was like, I need to learn more about this. And I talked to that chiropractor, and I went to a bunch of chiropractic seminars, and I learned about nutrition. And I actually, for a long time, I did a lot of muscle response testing. I don't do so much of it now because I have so many labs and other complicated things that I'm doing here. So we have Dr. Flynn do that. But incredible. I mean, it changed my life, from 3 to 5 serious headaches a week to, I mean, I maybe take Advil a few times a year. So it's wonderful to be able to have these tools. So now on these IgG food sensitivities, this type 3 food allergy reaction, this involves the IgG. It does not involve mast cells, so that's why it's a little bit more delayed. It's lesser understood, but it is really the most common response. Now, I've had patients come to me and say, well, really, how accurate is that? It's just telling you what you're eating, right? And I would say no. I mean, yes, things do come up more frequently if they're things that you eat frequently, or if you have candida overgrowth, or leaky gut syndrome, or some other form of bowel dysbiosis, or an abnormal, balance in your gut. Okay, yeah, more things are going to show up. But this gives us a starting point, and it's super duper helpful. Like, just for me, just giving up grains has been life-changing, and it's not that hard once you get used to it, and once in a while, I go off my program and I know, hey, I might get one of those headaches, or I might not, depending on how good I am. But sometimes I'm willing to pay the price, and other times I'm not, and most of the time I'm not, because I feel so much better without those things in my diet. This will occur, though, in about 45 to 60% of the general population, and it affects children and adults equally. Let's see here. So there's proven over 118 medical conditions and symptoms that are caused or provoked by this type of IgG delayed allergy response or hidden allergy response. And I'll just read you a few of them and see if any of these ring a bell. Arthritis, weight gain, eczema, fatigue, high blood pressure, celiac disease, sinus conditions. There you go. Asthma, various digestive disorders, eczema, headaches, including migraines, skin rashes, ADD or ADHD, weight challenges, acne, asthma, respiratory problems, colitis, diarrhea, constipation, depression, headaches, mental confusion, hyperactivity, anxiety, insomnia. I've actually seen, people with bipolar and schizophrenia get better too. Irritable bowel syndrome, candida overgrowth, ulcers, eczema, other skin problems, stuffy nose, congestion, decreased immunity, and postnasal drip. And that's really just to name a few. And, if I didn't say it earlier, basically, if you already know that you have, say, like grass allergy or tree allergy or cat and dog dander allergy, now those are going to be more IgE immediate allergies. This kind of allergy, the type 3 hidden food sensitivities, IgG mediated allergies, this can make those other ones worse. So, it's not just a trivial thing. It's really life-changing. So now we also have for IgE allergies, we don't do it here, but we do send people to the allergist or the ear, nose, and throat specialist sometimes that specialize in allergies for skin scratch testing. But that really is only checking for the IgE allergies. Like sometimes on the IgG food sensitivities, let's say, dairy, let's say dairy does not show up. But the person says, oh, if I eat dairy, I get, rashes. And besides, I had that checked at, my skin scratch test, and I should, I cannot do milk. And I just have to tell people, like, the IgG test is not going to show us the IgE. It's only going to show us the IgG, which is the delayed allergies. So if you have something that shows up, looks okay in the IgG, if you know that it causes you problems, or you know that you have an immediate allergic reaction to it, which means the one that can turn into anaphylaxis, wheezing, and all of that, do not eat it. Because just because it's negative on the IgG does not mean it's okay for you. Okay? But a lot of times those IgEs get better over time as we get rid of these IgG food sensitivities. Um, let's see. I think that's it for that one. And then, now I want to make a distinction here because there's also another thing called food intolerance. Now, food intolerance, you may have heard people talk about like MSG or something like that. MSG is a product, monosodium glutamate that they put into foods, like a lot of Chinese food, Asian food, things like that, that will have MSG in it to enhance the flavor. It's basically a type of salt. And some people get really sick with it, they don't feel well, they might get a headache. That's an intolerance. It's like a reaction to a chemical additive. It's not an actual food sensitivity or an immediate IgE allergy. Neither one of those is different. It's just an intolerance. You don't tolerate it well. Another example would be lactose intolerance. A lot of people have this where they don't have the enzymes that help them break down the lactose in milk products. And lactose intolerance is just an intolerance. It's not an actual allergy. You're not experiencing an allergic reaction. You're not having these immunoglobulins and things produced when you react to that. It just makes you feel poorly. Okay, so why do we want to look at these food sensitivities? It's estimated that up to 50% of Americans do suffer with these more subtle food allergies, the food sensitivities. They're more difficult to pinpoint. They don't immediately make you puff up like a blowfish or give you hives. So you get the idea. It shows up in more insidious ways. You just don't feel well. You might be cranky. You might get headaches more often. You might be brain foggy, stuff like that. And so, it will help sort out some of that, or it could be a cause of that. So common food sensitivities are wheat, gluten, cow's milk, dairy. Now I will say in America, the wheat, the organic is better, but wheat, because we've hybridized and crossbred it so much, and it's gone from being 15 chromosomes to 42 chromosomes, it's definitely more reactive in the brain. They say that it goes right to the opioid receptors in your brain, and so that's why it is so addicting. That's why when I tell people you really should go off of wheat and gluten, they sometimes cry in my office because they're literally addicted to it because it acts just like sugar in the body. And that's a result of the hybridization and the crossbreeding. Yes, it made the wheat shorter and more compact with more wheat berries on it, so they could get more product and they could feed the world, and that's all very noble. But when they changed the structure of it, our guts and our brains and everything weren't really exactly ready for that. So, and it's kind of funny, even if you don't react to wheat immediately, this is what Dr. Perlmutter says. He's a integrative neurologist that has written many, many books. A lot of his books are like Brain Maker, or my favorite is Grain Brain. And right in the beginning of those books, he explains to you, people will ask him, why did my mother get Alzheimer's? Or, why, is my spouse having memory problems? They were always so bright. They were an engineer. They were just, a avid reader and so intelligent. And he'll come right out and say, 2 causes, sugar and gluten. So, that's his feeling, is that, your brain cannot sense this inflammation that is getting in there. And that every time that inflammation comes, there's some amyloid plaques building in the brain. And this totally correlates with the research that was done by Dr. Bredesen, Bredesen. He's a neurologist that did studies on all of this and what causes the amyloid plaques in the brain of Alzheimer's patients. And he found it's basically like everything that we do here at the clinic. It's food sensitivities, it's wheat, it's sugar. The most common form of Alzheimer's is what he calls glucotoxic. And that goes along with the fact that in this country we have so many diabetics and so many people with insulin resistance. And there's, multiple issues, but a lot of that is our diet and our like fast-paced lifestyle and just grab and go instead of actually eating real food that you pull out of the refrigerator. So we really promote a whole food diet here, and we promote eating real food and not processed food. And yes, we're all going to have processed food from time to time. I do a lot of meal prepping at my house. I make my own lunch every day. I mean, I work probably 60 hours a week, so ask my husband if I can do it. You guys can do it. It's just organization. It's just a matter of planning. So, but yeah, wheat and gluten are so common. I just recommend most people go off of it. Even if they feel like they're tolerating it, you shouldn't be eating it every day, all the time, And there's plenty of substitutes out there now. There's a bunch of gluten-free junk food out there too, so be careful about that. It's, the carbohydrates and, the simple sugars and the junk that they add into that is not that much greater than just, eating regular wheat. But there are some good substitutes out there too. We have a lot of choices, and I just, I rarely have grains. If I decide to do a little bit of rice or, a little bit of oatmeal or a little bit of quinoa or something like that, I'm going to do it in the whole food form. I'm not going to have rice cakes or, processed, stuff. I'm going to make rice, and I'm going to eat real brown rice or long grain rice or something like that. And then my amount's going to be very small. For me, carbohydrates, I'm very sensitive to them. And it does, if I eat too many grains, it does bother my sinuses. So, I just, maybe, a couple tablespoons, maybe a quarter cup at the most. I just never overdo it on those kinds of foods because I know, number one, I'm not going to feel as good. And number two, I'm probably going to gain weight. And that is like, as you get into your late 50s, like I am, it gets harder and harder to control your weight. So that's just a great little trick for me, and I don't miss it at all. So if I want to splurge sometimes, I go ahead and do it. But it's just getting you into the mindset of, we don't have to have these things all the time. Just because they're on the grocery store shelf and they're convenient, it's a mindset. It's a mindset. It's not that hard. It's just whatever you get used to. And so same thing with cow's milk dairy. Now not everybody has to get rid of that. There is some raw cow's milk that actually many people do well with. I haven't taken the time to get raw cow's milk. I don't really do that much milk in my diet. So, but wheat, gluten, which is in wheat, barley, and rye, cow's milk dairy, the cheese is made from the cow's milk dairy, and corn and corn derivatives, soy and eggs are probably the top allergens in the food sensitivity test. And then, you will have other things like, common spices like pepper and garlic, chocolate, baker's yeast and brewer's yeast. That's an interesting thing. That's another nice thing about this food sensitivity test is I can basically tell from it if it looks like somebody has candida overgrowth. And if people are really watching their pennies and they don't want to spend $70 more to get a specific candida antibody test, then what we'll do is just look at the food sensitivities, and I can tell from that if you have leaky gut. I can tell from that if you have yeast overgrowth, and we can treat those things, and then later on, recheck the candida antibody test. But yeah, potential causes of irritable bowel syndrome are all of these foods that I just mentioned to you. I mean, we're talking 25 to 60% of cases are going to have those kind of food sensitivities that I was talking about. Let's see. So I think we already talked about what is here. Basically, if you have environmental, seasonal, or chemical allergies, they can be made worse by these food sensitivities. So that's a way to improve those. So yeah, I mean, everybody asked me like, "What's the cause? What's the cause?" And I talked about that a little bit already, and saying that, well, sometimes it's just you're eating the same food too often. You're maybe eating too much food. You're getting in these kind of habitual patterns. You're eating processed food. Anything that raises inflammation in the body. Um, but it can be enhanced by, the other things I talked about, leaky gut syndrome, candida overgrowth, other, autoimmune diseases and things like that. So you can kind of be set up for it, and then it's made worse by the diet. Of course, the sad American diet, the standard American diet, is often the cause. Refined flours, white sugar, processed food that doesn't have the minerals we need in it, or the digestive enzymes that helps us take it in and assimilate it in our bodies. So a lot of times, also the standard American diet or the SAD diet, it just contains very few foods. It's like beef, eggs, chicken, dairy, wheat, corn, fried foods, and sugar. And if this is your diet, I mean, you are looking at disease at some point in your life. If you're looking at yourself now and saying, hey, I feel great, look at me, I'm not fat or whatever, still in your cells, in your brain, in your lungs, in your liver, in your cells of your body, they know that you're getting too many carbohydrates and too much sugar and too many inflammatory foods. You cannot fool the biology of the body. It just doesn't matter, no matter how good you feel. If you're eating those kinds of foods, there's something happening at the cellular level. So, yeah, and just the typical American plate, 50% animal protein, 25% overcooked vegetables, and 25% processed carbohydrates or fried foods. Think of a McDonald's meal. Think of, a Wendy's meal. Now you can eat more healthfully when you go to those places by getting a salad, sometimes they have fruit. But yeah, I haven't frequented those types of places in years. And the only time I ever go to a place like that is if it's like the only place to get something with protein. And then I get the cleanest, baked or broiled thing that I can get. And I just take off all the white flour stuff and anything that's got sugar in it. And I try to avoid that. So sometimes it's a necessity, but we try to avoid those things if we can. And, what's the, consequence of these poor diets? Potato chips, a 6-pack of Coke, even just one can of Coke. I mean, the grams of sugar in that can of Coke is going to decrease your white blood cell function for up to 5 days by about 50%. And really, in these times of, viral infections and all of the stuff we've gone through for the last couple of years here, I mean, this is just the worst thing that you could do for your body. It's a setup for illness. So, and again, you can get away with it when you're young, but it's still, you're damaging cells. So, I would encourage you to do like I did when my kids were about 8 and 10 years old. They're in their 30s now. I took all the soda out of the house. I took all of the milk out of the house. I basically got rid of most of the sugary stuff. I mean, we still had some treats, but we just kind of put them in a corner. And those were just, not used that often. We got used to eating fruit and vegetables and good proteins and sourcing good sources of food. And, the bottom line is if you are eating like this and if you have one of those bodies that tends to become overweight or obese, there's some pretty nasty statistics that have been linked to obesity, and I'll just share those with you real quick. Endometrial cancers, that's cancer of the uterus, 49% of those people are obese. And that means 20% above your ideal body weight. Esophageal cancer, 35% of those people are obese. Pancreatic cancers, 28% of those obese. Kidney cancers, 24% obese. Gallbladder cancers, 21% obese. Breast cancer, 17% obese. Colorectal cancers, 9%. And these are a little bit older statistics that may have changed. And, I can recall Dr. McWhorter a doctor out of Texas who does a lot of bioidentical hormones saying if you want to know your risk for breast cancer or for any cancer, look at the scale. That's going to tell you your risk. So, we have help for that too. If you guys need help with weight loss programs or, need to be directed to a good program that works, or, you just need help finding the right diet for you, we can help you with that. Back to allergies. Basically, when you go on the food allergy elimination diet, what we do is we take you away from those foods for 3 to 5 months. And then when you introduce the foods back in, we have you do 1 food per week, and you do it 2 or 3 times that week. And then you listen to your body and see, okay, did I get headaches? Did I get tired? Did I get cranky or moody? Did my back pain come back, or did my gut issues come back, or whatever? And many, many people can spot it, like that day. Now, it does sometimes take up to 72 hours if it's a food sensitivity. And so, that's why we have you do that food 2 or 3 times that week and just see. Now, if you have no reaction at all, we let you put that food back in 1 to 2 times a week. And then we just see how you do with it over time. Other common allergens or chemicals that upset the balance in our body chemistry and can make us have more food sensitivities are things like the glyphosate, which is the main chemical in Roundup. Also other herbicides, pesticides, environmental pollutants, harsh chemicals, fumes from carpets, plastics, scented products, fuels from cars. So if you have a job where you have to deal with this stuff, wear a rebreather mask if you can when you're around these kinds of things, or protect your skin. I mean, a lot of these things just go right in through the skin and then can cause problems later. Basically, what I'm trying to say is your immune system is, overloaded, between the chemicals and the processed food and the animals that are getting hormones, or the animals that are stressed because of the way they're raised, our immune systems kind of never get a break. So, so we've got to be kind to our bodies, listen to our bodies, be, mindful of what we're doing with our body and how we're treating it. We need this thing. We need to stick around for a while and take care of this body because, even though, yes, we are spirit, and yes, we, have, that spiritual awareness and all that, and that's good. We still have a body. We still have this little meat thing that we're carrying around with us, and we got to take care of it. Otherwise, we might not be around as long as we would like. So, and I do think I should say with this viral illness that went around these last couple of years, that is, case in point. It's like the people that were getting this illness and getting sicker from this illness and dying from this illness, it was the people who had insulin resistance, prediabetes, blood sugar problems. They were obese or severely overweight, or, they were just out of shape or eating lots of junky chemical foods. They had heart disease already, things like that. The interesting thing, though, is I have several elderly patients in my practice that they're just hitting those vitamins, they're eating better food, they're taking care of themselves. They got that virus and they just sailed through it. They just, they did very well. So, I myself had the viral illness that, we all know about, of which name I will not state in this presentation, but it was very mild. I just had a head cold. And now I'm, glad that I was exposed to it. I have lifetime immunity. I have immunity against the variants that are, springing up. So, it's if it's handled correctly, and you call us if you do have that problem, and we will tell you exactly what to do. There are some valid ways to address that and hopefully keep you very healthy and not get super ill. Let's see, what else do we have here? I talked about leaky gut syndrome. There's a number of factors that could lead to that. it ends up weakening your digestion, weakening your immunity, causing inflammation. Basically, what leaky gut is over time, if there's a lot of inflammation in the gut from either food sensitivities, other allergies, other autoimmune problems, or gut that's not in balance, or let's say you had an insult to your gut, like you just had a really bad flu or something like that. What happens is there's little tiny microscopic cells that are literally joined together like solidly, and there's no space in there between each cell that makes up the wall of your gut. Those can get little microscopic cracks in them. You can't see them when you get a scope, a colonoscopy or whatever. They cannot be seen with the naked eye. But microscopically, there are gastroenterologists that study this. They call it intestinal permeability. Okay, that's another term for leaky gut syndrome. It's a real thing. And what happens is little microscopic particles of either your allergic foods or chemicals or other stuff, it unfortunately will just go right back into your lymphatic system or into your veins and things that are just lining the outside of your gut, and you have to process it all over again. It has to go through the liver, it has to go through all the tissues, and that's very taxing on the immune system. It's very taxing on the immune system, and it can make you feel yucky or tired, or it can really cause immune dysregulation or immune deficiency. So we don't want to do that. We want to take care of our gut, make sure our gut is healed, we want to make sure we don't get leaky gut. And one of those ways is to check your food sensitivities. And the thing with leaky gut is it's not just that whole process I just talked about, but also the inflammation particles that are formed in the gut can go anywhere in the body. They can go to the brain, they can go to your joints, they can go to your muscles, they can go to your eyes, your lungs, we don't know why they go certain places in certain people, but it will usually go to like a weaker point of your body. Now, because of this problem being so prevalent, now they're starting to talk about leaky blood-brain barrier. There is an actual barrier between your vascular system and your brain. That's because your brain wants to protect itself. And when you get leaky brain, then these particles can get in there. Also, they're talking about leaky liver. There's also many layers of protection for the liver. The liver is the major filter of the body. It filters everything in the body. We need it to detoxify. If your liver's not working, you're gonna, not be long for this life. You need it to function along with your kidneys. You can get leaky kidney syndrome. All of these end organs that deal with everything that goes through the body, they can become damaged and leaky at that microscopic level, and that inflammation can go everywhere. So, yeah, you can get, inflammatory responses in non-gastrointestinal tissues when you have leaky gut syndrome. So when we see a food sensitivity test and it's got more than 15 to 20 items, the first thing I think of is leaky gut. And what is that leaky gut going to do to the rest of the body? And I absolutely love doing this in young children because, I feel like, it's helping them for the rest of their life and making their health, improving their health, So, okay, so when we have leaky gut from food sensitivities or from any other insult, or we know that the person's got gut issues, and we've done a test that shows us what's going on in the gut. Sometimes we'll do that along with the food sensitivities, or if the food sensitivities don't seem to handle the situation, completely. And we do something called the 4R program. Now, this was developed by the Metagenics company, and it just works. It just makes sense. The first step is removing offending substances. So offending substances would be that sad standard American diet. So, the junk food, the sugar, the fried food, etc. All my patients say, "You're no fun, Dr. Auburn." Okay, so once in a while have a French fry or two, but like do not eat a Big Mac and a supersized French fry every day, or it's going to make you sick. It's going to cause damage in the body. Pack your lunch. So we remove those offending substances that would include the food sensitivities. Replace is replacing digestive enzymes, maybe replacing, good digestive acid for your stomach. Many people do not have enough good stomach acid, and that's causing a lot of their problems. It can cause sluggish bowels. It can cause reflux. It can cause heartburn. It can cause pain. It can cause bloating, all of that sort of thing. So replace digestive enzymes or digestive acids. And then reinoculate. The other thing we do often is add in probiotics to a person's program. That's the good bacteria that your gut needs. Now, in the last few years, I have also added a really amazing product called Ion Biome. Now, this product used to be called Restore. Some of you might remember it as Restore. But Ion Biome is basically fulvic acid and humic acid. It's minerals from dirt, basically. And it was discovered by Dr. Zach Bush, Dr. Zach Bush. And he is an endocrinologist, and he was also a palliative cancer doctor. And a few years back, he was just shocked at how many young people were coming in with autoimmune disease and cancer. And a 10-year-old in his practice had type 2 diabetes, which is like adult onset diabetes, which was unbelievable. And he started thinking, like, what's wrong in our environment? What's going on here? Why is this happening? And he basically scientifically tracked it back to the introduction of glyphosate in our agricultural system. And it's not good for us. It damages, our intestines, our brains. I mean, we all see the commercials. We know it causes lymphoma for people that have been exposed to a lot of it. And why it's still on the market, I have no idea. But I'm not happy about that. And I've always been very frustrated because I didn't know what to do about it. But he figured it out. He looked at the soil and he said, okay, how does the soil recover from Roundup, from glyphosate? How does it do that? And he figured out that the soil over time builds up its microbiome. It builds up the minerals in the microbiome. And then that, pushes out the chemicals. It cleans them out. Amazing. And he's like, okay, wait a second. We have a microbiome. We have good bacteria. We have over 350 different kinds of good bacteria in our gut. Why can't we do this too? So he actually figured out how to get that mixture of those minerals that were in the soil and put them in a drinkable form, and you just take a tablespoon a day. Kids or young people under 100 pounds can take a teaspoon a day. And I've had so many miracles with that. Patients with irritable bowel syndrome and patients who couldn't tolerate probiotics, they can tolerate this. Now, some people, they do have a reaction to it. They get gas, bloating, and whatever. So with those people, we tell them start with 5 drops and then very slowly over time build it up. But that's a lot of what I've been doing for Reinoculate. And it's not probiotics, but what it is it's food for your good bacteria. It makes your microbiome diversify and proliferate. So it's kind of in a way better than probiotics. I mean, we still use the probiotics for when people are on antibiotics or they have a really bad infection, or, for a short time, you might do it for, somebody who's got candida overgrowth or leaky gut. But, we usually put them on the maintenance of the ion biome because it diversifies everything. That's what we want in the body, is diversity of lots of good bacteria down there. Instead of just putting in, 50 billion of 30 different kinds or something like that. You want diversity, that's the key. So sometimes we use probiotics, and some people need both if they have a really bad irritable bowel, but the ion biome has been great. And basically it also, the other thing it does is it blocks the glyphosate. And I really don't know anything else that really does that. It works very, very well. So I basically try to get everybody to take it every day. There's no reason not to take it, and you're, maintaining good gut health and everything. at the same time. And inadvertently, when you build the microbiome and you block the glyphosate, you're taking some of the inflammation out there, so it helps the healing process of the gut. So reinoculate, probiotics or ion biome. And then the last piece is restore. And what we mean by that is to restore the integrity of that gut lining, mucosal integrity. Get those cells so they're pressed nice and strongly together and they don't have any leaks or anything. And that's a process. It takes about 3 to 6 months. We often use L-glutamine. We do have other products that we occasionally use, like Ultra Clear Sustain, sometimes aloe. There's another product called Zinlori, Zinlori. That's a combination of zinc and carnosine. And the carnosine basically coats the lining of the gut and helps it to heal. It's one of my favorite things to use with people who are trying to recover from an ulcer or irritation in their stomach. If they have to take the medications for that, we add the Zinlori in 1-2 a day, and it increases the healing 60% faster. So lots of different ways to heal the gut, and we work that out with the patient and figure out what their needs are. So I think that's about it, but just suffice it to say that the world's toxic burden has increased significantly since the 1800s. So that can be a cause for why we get more food sensitivities, but also, like I said before, the diet changes, the stress. I mean, stress is really hard on us. I mean, we do what we can. Sometimes, we just have stress and we have to deal with it. And stress can be a good thing. It, helps us rise to the occasion. But when that stress is chronic and unrelenting, it causes tons of inflammation in the body. It makes your body mobilize lots of sugar that's stored in your liver, and that's not good for, insulin resistance, diabetes, general health, a healthy brain, all of that stuff. So, whether your problem is skin, gut, pain, headaches, one of the easiest tests we can do is this food sensitivity test. And, one of the things about this is the scientists that study this stuff, they say in over 75% of these allergic reactions that are happening at our cellular microscopic level, the cells in those tissues are actually destroyed. Now, cells are meant to have a certain life, and then they break up, they die, and while you're doing that, you're building more cells. We have a new skeleton like every 3 or 4 months. We have a new gut lining every 2 or 3 months. It's just there's turnover of cells all the time, but we don't want to be killing cells that we don't need to kill. So, we want to preserve those cells and keep them healthy. We don't want to damage them or push them into becoming more of a cancer cell or something like that. So, when you're reaching for that donut or that junk food or that candy bar or, that processed food, just try to slowly get yourself over to working more into being more of a person who eats whole foods, real foods, foods that you can pull out of your refrigerator. Some of them might have to cook a little bit, not overcook them. But yeah, just think, hey, I could be destroying some of my cells. I could be damaging some of my cells. I could be creating a situation where I have heart disease or diabetes or cancer. So that's kind of how I think of it. I think, okay, hey, I'm building a new body every day with everything I put in this body. And literally, you are what you eat. It sounds so cliche-ish, but it is absolutely true. And that's why I make sure everybody gets their multivitamin, their fish oils. I check their nutrients in their blood if they'll allow me to do that, because it's amazing. It's incredible how many people have this last couple of years. We found low zinc levels, low vitamin D levels, low B12 levels. There's just so many things that we can check in the body, and they're pretty easy to fix, And again, some people are saying, oh, I don't like to take pills. I don't like to do this stuff. Well, we have the tools. They are natural. We know how to fix this stuff. And you're not going to be on all those pills forever. We try to get it down to the baseline of the nutrients that you really need and the multivitamin and the fish oil or some kind of omega-3s. That's our goal, to have you take as little as possible. But sometimes, it is a little bit more. And it just depends on each individual person. And that's what I love about doing integrative medicine, or what we call functional medicine, is we're looking at things like this so that we can figure out what you need as an individual. Not, what everybody on the planet needs, what you need for your specific needs. And we individualize everything. And I think that's really important. And then I can show you most things before and after with a test. So that to me is, proof positive that, what we're doing is making a change. And I know it's almost 7 o'clock, so I want to end off by 7. So I just want to say prevention is the key. A lot of people talk about preventive medicine, but we actually do it here. We do look at what you eat. We do care about your symptoms. We do listen to you. We talk to you, and we know there is something we can do about it. It's just like, we have the tools here. And we have the tools to help people who are sick as well. It's not that we never see anybody who's sick. Obviously we do, but the more you can practice prevention, true prevention, with your diet, with your lifestyle, with exercise, with finding out what your individual needs are. And the other thing I might add is detoxifying on a regular basis. And the first way you detoxify is just stay away from the chemicals as much as possible. But hey, they're all over the earth. We can't get away from them now. That's the price of living in a comfortable, modern, industrialized world. But what I do is I do a detox twice a year. And it's very simple. You can do it with either Ultra Clear Plus, or you can do it with Ultra Clear Renew. My personal favorite is Ultra Clear Renew, because that product is designed to also not only pull out toxins and help your liver function better to pull those toxins out, but also to help you remove some heavy metals. Now, it's not like true chelation. If you have high heavy metals, chelation is a whole other thing where we're binding very strongly with specific products and pulling those heavy metals out of the body. But it does help. And I do this twice a year. It's super simple. It takes about 21 days. We also have a version of it called Clear Change. That's like a little box kit. It's around $130 or something like that. And you do it in 10 days. I personally don't like that one as much, because I don't want to be drinking a protein drink with these detoxifying chemical or detoxifying nutrients in them 3 times a day. I just don't care for that. Some people want to, get it done, and that's fine. You can do it in 10 days. I like the more gentle route, and I like to do it over 21 days. And so we have the instructions here. If you feel like doing it, anybody can do it. You can call and get Ultra Clear Plus and Ultra Clear Renew, whichever version you like, and do it, next month. It's not something you want to do on vacation, although I have done that before when I've gone out of town. I've taken my protein drink with me, because it does involve like a diet. You want a very clean diet. It takes you off of certain foods that tend to be allergenic. And you're basically just drinking this protein drink once a day and cleaning up your diet and getting, taking some of the things out of your diet, like, junk food and soy and gluten and dairy and sugars and all that. It's a great jump start to anything, but I personally do it twice a year because I just know we live on toxic planet Earth, and that is, you got to do something or you're going to become toxic. If you guys do want to go to the website for the food sensitivity test that we use, it's foodallergy.com. You probably can't see this very well. It's Alitest Labs, and that is the website there, foodallergy.com. And they do not only our food sensitivities, but also our food our Candida antibody tests. Through them, we can also do IgE allergies. We can check mold allergies. They do have a celiac panel as well. And especially with today's day and age, all of these insurances are, high deductible and often don't cover a lot of things. And Alitus has really amazing prices for the 96 food panel, I think it is. For food sensitivities, it's like $140. For the 184 food panel, which gives you more of your substitutes and other options, that is about $220, I think. Way less expensive than most of these food sensitivity tests on the market, and fairly accurate, I would say, and reproducible. It's a really good test, and their Candida antibody test is only, I think, $70. And I'm sorry, I can't remember all the prices of all the other panels, but super, super, super reasonable. Definitely worth checking out. And yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention to you all is, reducing inflammation is part of the game too. So we can do that with our diet. We can do that with getting rid of food sensitivities. I always, like I said, put everybody on fish oils. A lot of my patients are on turmeric or curcumin. Boswellia is another good one. MSM is another good anti-inflammatory. We have multiple items, that we can use for that and do on a regular basis. And then last but not least, I want to say Dr. Flynn is amazing. Like I said, he's an Oriental medical doctor, and he's an acupuncturist, and he is an amazing muscle response testing machine. And he's very, very good at what he does. And you guys would love him. He's very sweet, and he's a true healer. And, when I have my difficult cases and I'm not sure what else to do, and I'm getting confused, like, is it this supplement or is it that issue that's causing the problem? I send them to Dr. Flynn, and he tests them with muscle testing. And it's amazing. I mean, I had this gal one time, she had a rash around her mouth. I tried everything to try and get rid of it. And Dr. Flynn muscle tested her and found out it was olive oil. Took out the olive oil, and she was fine. So, sometimes, like I said, these tests don't pick up on every single thing that could possibly be causing the reactions or the symptoms that you have. So muscle testing is a fantastic tool. It's just another tool, and can give us some insight into the things that we really just, cannot get on a test. And so last but not least, if you do end up getting the PowerPoint, you will see one of my last slides is boost your immunity. I do have immune booster packages, so if you do want to boost your immunity, especially if you do have, autoimmune disease or some, issue, long-term health problem, or if you just want to stay healthy in these times of this crazy viral problem, I have, options for what you should take and how much for adults and for children. I think we do have that information on our website too. So, let's just all say stay healthy and well and get through all of that. And, eat clean food, eat real food. Don't put any supplements in your body that have, dyes and, chemicals in them that you can't pronounce. Same thing with the food labels. Start looking at how many carbs are in there. I don't eat a lot of stuff that has, more than 15 or 20 grams of carbohydrate in it. I also don't eat a lot of food that comes boxed. Once in a while I decide to, and I just eat a very small amount. I don't eat a whole bag of crackers or, it's like 10 or 12, that's enough. I look at how many calories are in it. I look at the carbs in it, and then I go, okay, I'll have just a quarter of a serving, And that's, how we control this, and then we're in control, not all those outside forces that can possibly make us ill. And that's really all I have for you tonight. I'm sorry I ran over by about 4 minutes. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And somebody asked the question, will there be a replay of this available to view? Yes, it will always be on our Facebook page. You can go back there and watch it 10 times if you want. All of the other Facebook Lives I've done in the last year and a half here or so should be there also. So if you want to learn about some other topics, And our website has tons of information if you guys want to just learn. The website is www.nhicwestmi.com. So that's nhicwestmi.com. And, just click on the links in there. Got lots of educational stuff. And, we love helping people. And I'm so glad that you guys tuned in tonight. And if I can do anything for you, please call my staff and let us know. We just have a great team here. We're like a big, huge family. We're all here to help you. And have a good rest of your night and your week. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.